will be a very happy event for me if I can be the means of introducing Abraham Lincoln to a few, whose hearts I know beat in true unison with the ideals of Lincoln, ideals the advancement of which made him immortal. With the extension of these ideals, there will undoubtedly be a better world.
Hundreds gathered at the Redlands Bowl on February 12, 1932, to dedicate the newest jewel in Redlands, the Lincoln Memorial Shrine. 90 years have come and gone since that momentous occasion, the genesis of an enduring legacy for Redlands. But familiar questions continue to be asked by first-time visitors. What is a Lincoln Shrine? Why is it in Redlands? Who are the people behind its creation? That story began more than 150 years ago in the East Midlands of England.
I was born in the early morning of April the 5th, 1858, in the second cottage from Derby Road of a row of small dwellings known as Bacon's Yard, Alfreton, Derbyshire, England.
During the Industrial Revolution of the late 18th and 19th centuries, Derbyshire became a center for cotton mills, limestone quarrying, lead mining, and coal mining. Alfreton, along the eastern edge of Derbyshire, was situated in a coal mining area. Robert's parents were John and Alicia Watchorn. John toiled at the local colliery or coal mine in order to make a living. But a carefree childhood was not to be young Bobby's future.
The school days and the pranks, tussles, special events, and all their impressive effects came to an abrupt end early in April 1869, just at the commencement of my 11th year. At that time, there were 6 other children in our family. My father was a coal miner, whose wages were not enough to produce affluence, falling short of providing ordinary comforts for the family. Therefore, when I volunteered to help out, the offer was accepted, though with painful reluctance by my mother.
The work was grueling and dirty. 12-hour days were common, and his meager earnings were given over to his mother to help support the family. Although he didn't realize it then, this formative period in his life forged a determination and resolve that would benefit him the rest of his life. He later recalled about working in the mines that
self-emancipation became a ruling passion, resulting in a determination never for a moment to relax the purpose to be free at the first opportunity from an occupation so terribly depressing, so fraught with perils, and so lamentable, unremunerative.
Robert continued his education at night following work in the mines during the day. When he turned 22, he, like so many others, decided to look for a better life and more opportunity in the United States. In May 1880, he disembarked at Castle Garden, New York, beginning this new chapter of his life. Soon he found himself in the coal mines of Pennsylvania. He became involved with the labor movement, looking to improve conditions and wages for miners. When the United Mine Workers of America organized in 1890, he was elected its first secretary. This work brought him from Pennsylvania to Ohio.
I learned to love Ohio. Best of all, it was where I met my future wife, the dearest and most delightful of companions. For all of these years, she's been the apple of my eye, the very essence of my endeavours, the consummation of my achievements, the sharer of my disappointments, the helper of helpers, and the sweetest of mothers to our children, Robert and Ewart.
Alma Jessica Simpson was working as a teacher when the two met, and they married in 1891. Their first child, Robert Kinnear Watchorn, was born the following year, but sadly passed away in 1893. In 1895, they welcomed their second son, Ewart. Robert Watchorn's career path took him from the United Mine Workers to an appointment as factory inspector for the state of Pennsylvania, and then to the Immigration Service of the United States. He began as an immigration inspector at Ellis Island, then was appointed supervising inspector general, a position that involved traveling across the country and the world. His continuing success resulted in a promotion as Commissioner of Immigration for the entire border with Canada in 1903, and ultimately an appointment by President Theodore Roosevelt.
On February the 5th, 1905, I took the oath of office as Commissioner of Immigration at the Port of New York. the headquarters of which were at Ellis Island. This island was located on the New Jersey side of the bay, a mile or two from Old Castle Garden at the south end of Manhattan Island, where I had myself landed as an immigrant steerage passenger 25 years previously.
During his tenure as commissioner, Watchorn oversaw the largest annual influx of immigrants from Europe, with more than 1 million passing through its halls in 1907 alone. Because he was himself an immigrant, he held a compassionate position towards those seeking a better life in America. With the transition to the Taft administration in 1909, Watchorn looked for other opportunities. An offer of employment as treasurer of the Union Oil Company presented itself, and he jumped at the chance. The Watchorns moved 3,000 miles west to Los Angeles. Ewart graduated from Hollywood High School in 1914, a popular and successful student with an artistic streak. He even worked for noted Pasadena architect Elmer Gray. However, world events soon impacted the lives of millions of people.
When America entered the war on the side of the Allies, Ewart was among the very first to enlist.
At 21 years old, Ewart joined the nascent U.S. Army Air Service, training to be a pilot. He served in Italy, flying Italian Caproni bombers on dangerous bombing raids across the Italian Alps. The squadron was led by Fiorello LaGuardia, whom Watchorn had hired as an Italian interpreter at Ellis Island more than a decade earlier. While serving in Italy, Ewart suffered health issues, but returned to the United States triumphant after the war. By this time, Watchorn had left Union Oil and founded his own company, Watchorn Oil and Gas, headquartered in Oklahoma City. The company successfully struck oil, and Ewart joined his father in the oil business. Tragically, Ewart was struck with a mystery illness in May 1921 and succumbed to septicemia 2 months later in July at age 25. Robert and Alma Watchorn were grief-stricken, but resolved that something good must come from this heartbreak.
I preferred to dispose of my participating share in Ewart's estate by memorialising his name whenever a suitable opportunity presented itself. It has helped me to present a beautiful park to my native town, Alfreton, Derbyshire, England, in honour of his mother, and to erect a Methodist church and adjacent structures adjoining the park in memory of his grandmother, my mother, whom he never knew.
In his grief, Watchorn recalled a conversation he shared with Ewart while visiting England before the war.
Dad, I think the reason the English people have such a limited respect for America and Americans is due to the fact that they are kept in ignorance of the actual America. I think, from my contact with them, that they are mostly of the Abraham Lincoln type. And if they could be made acquainted with the big outstanding fact that the kind-hearted, pure-minded Lincoln is America's greatest hero, all England would come to love Lincoln too. And loving him, they could not fail to appreciate America also.
My son's remark makes an appeal to me to do whatever I can to make folk better acquainted with the incomparably modest, unostentatious, and immortal Abraham Lincoln.
Watchorn's first major acquisition was an impressive bust of Abraham Lincoln in 1922, carved from Carrara marble by noted sculptor George Gray Barnard.
The majesty of this masterpiece of sculpting cannot be told in words. As one gazes on that calm face, the features so faithfully reproduced by the artist, he takes on some of the dignity and purpose of the subject.
Watchorn's interest in Lincoln continued to grow. In the 1920s, he decided to build a library dedicated to Abraham Lincoln and Alfreton to help fulfill Ewart's belief about the understanding of Lincoln and America in England. During the same period, the Watchorns settled in Redlands for their winter residence, still maintaining a home in Dutchess County, New York. In Redlands, they demonstrated their philanthropic spirit by a gift of chimes to the First Methodist Church of Redlands in Ewart's name. But the Barnard bust of Lincoln burned in Watchorn's mind, and the idea of giving it to the people of Redlands sprung forth.
It is my hope that I may do something in the name of our son to make folks better acquainted with the sturdy, big, warm-hearted man and towering statesman, Abraham Lincoln.
Conversations abounded between the Watchorns and friends on Smiley Library's Board of Trustees about adding a wing to the library for the bust. Then, in 1931, those discussions determined that a separate standalone building was a more suitable and appropriate opportunity. The Lincoln Memorial Committee, a who's who of Redlands, selected Elmer Gray, for whom Ewart had worked nearly 15 years earlier as architect. This new form would be a place to come and quietly contemplate Lincoln, a Lincoln shrine. On February 12, 1932, their dream became a reality with the dedication of the Lincoln Memorial Shrine, a gift to Redlands, given during the depths of the Great Depression. Thousands turned out for the ceremony held at the Redlands Bowl.
I have no speech. My speech is over there, and it will stand for other generations to be inspired by the example of the great American, who turned the currents of freedom into the souls of millions of fellow men.
From that day to this, the Lincoln Memorial Shrine has grown to be the preeminent institution honoring Abraham Lincoln and the American Civil War west of the Mississippi River. More than 1 million visitors have come to learn and reflect on Lincoln and this pivotal moment in the nation's history. Today, the shrine continues to fulfill Robert Watchorn's vision.
Personally, I feel so strongly that the influence of Abraham Lincoln is powerful enough to help the whole world.
Abraham Lincoln is the greatest president the United States has ever had.
He's the quintessential American, our greatest president who ended the scourge of American slavery and kept our nation together during our worst crisis, the American Civil War.
Abraham Lincoln is one of the most significant historical figures in American history, and he's a person who continues to inspire and educate people.
Abraham Lincoln is the embodiment of the aspirations of our nation.
Lincoln showed the leadership and the guts in the face of criticism to make sure this country remained united.
Abraham Lincoln embodies the American spirit of perseverance, hard work, and endurance.
Understanding Abraham Lincoln is critical to understanding who we are as a country. Not only because of his personal story, coming from very little and achieving great things, but also the struggles that he had in order to persevere, especially in the greatest crisis our country ever faced in terms of civil war.
But certain things bear out. Solidity, loyalty, a brilliant mind for strategy, eloquent writer and speaker, and words that were meant to serve and often cut in a lofty but important way to help guide us as to what we should be, not what we are.
Lincoln's life inspires us, challenges us, and causes us to look at our own lives.
Lincoln means so many things to so many different people. He's obviously a symbol of class mobility, the power of education, as well as strategic partnerships, including his marriage to Mary Todd Lincoln, to achieve socioeconomic mobility, but to place that mobility in service to the greater good.
Abraham Lincoln is complex. He's a person that has, throughout history, been acclaimed and reviled. He's a person that we can still learn a lot from. He wasn't just one thing. He was someone who was a very complicated person. There were many layers to his personality.
So he's a complicated person.
Inspirational,
Courageous.
complex,
Transformational. Not only did he transform himself, but he transformed the country.
That inspires all of us to see how we can change our own lives and perhaps come to a greater understanding.
Abraham Lincoln continues to be relevant today because of the issues that he grappled with during his life and especially during his presidency, which is one of the most turbulent periods in American history and really shaped what the nation became and what it is today.
A central lesson is the power of persistence coupled with compromise.
So we probably need a Lincoln more now than we did since the Civil War.
I do believe he was in the pantheon of American presidents, heroic.
The Lincoln Memorial Shrine is crucial to the cultural life of Redlands. It serves as an inspiration that people in the past and people today can be moved to create a better community.
From the minute you behold the building, the Lincoln Memorial Shrine begins its story.
Where we can learn most about Abraham Lincoln is from his writing. And one of the wonderful aspects about the architecture of the Lincoln Shrine are the quotes that are visible on the exterior of the building. So you can read what he said and really contemplate who he was and what he meant.
And over the years, we've expanded that vision into a more inclusive museum, looking at all of the many issues that faced both Lincoln and the American people.
The Lincoln Shrine is the center of education and community in Redlands.
It's not just for citizens of Redlands, but everyone in Southern California, and the United States.
What makes the Lincoln Shrine so important is how unique it is. There isn't another place in California or in the West where you can come and learn about the Civil War, learn about Abraham Lincoln's life.
Every time you come in this building or know about it, you have to ask yourself the question, where am I? On the question of human rights, on the question of the singularity of the country, on the question of unity versus disunity, and the question of what we are responsible for as an individual citizen.
An understanding of Abraham Lincoln and the American Civil War is an imperative for understanding who we are, not only in a community, but as a nation. And because there are so few things west of the Mississippi River that even harken back to that crucible of Civil War, it is really important that this is here on the West Coast.
The shrine has endured because the issues that came from the Civil War are still relevant today.
Understanding the issues that led to Civil War, namely the enslavement of human beings, helps us understand the many issues around social justice that we're experiencing today.
So it's a space of education, it's a space of reflection, it is a space of community.
But also as a place to learn about Abraham Lincoln, the lessons that he can teach us about his life, and the way that the Civil War shaped American society.
The shrine in Redlands is an important space for scholars, for children, for folks who are just kind of passing through.
The expansion was extraordinarily important because it tripled the size of the Lincoln Shrine.
We're going to continue to think about the Civil War, contemplate the issues, think about Abraham Lincoln, and change as interpretations change, as understandings change.
But this is still the past in dialogue with the present, and if you're really perceptive, about the future.
It's very, very important that Redlands maintains this icon.
And in a way, this building becomes a touchstone of philanthropy. It becomes a touchstone of education. It becomes a touchstone of culture and program.
Redlands is a remarkable place because so many who were here early had a vision of a better future. And we have benefited from that as a community during the following 100-some-odd years since the founding of the city.
When you talk about the Lincoln Shrine and people who support it, it's different in a way, the belief system, the commitment of these individuals, because it is tied about a man and a major event in American history that still affects us.
Tonight, we not only honor the anniversary of the birth of Abraham Lincoln, who's February 12th, but we also celebrate 90 years since the dedication of this amazing gift to this community.
What has allowed the Lincoln Shrine to endure for 90 years is the generosity of the community in Redlands. We are so grateful for everything that you've done to support the museum, and we hope that you will continue to support us in the years to come.
When we talk about philanthropy in Redlands, we often refer to a quote from Clarence White when the Redlands Bowl Priscillus was dedicated in 1930, and he said, "No city lives by taxes alone." And certainly that is true, as true today as it was in 1930, and the only way that we can continue propelling this institution into the future at this level of quality, and perhaps greater, is because of the commitment of people in this town who value institutions like this and are willing to commit of their own resources to assure the future.
But those people who do support it realize the big picture of what this means to the historical fabric of interpretation.
It's remarkable that any town can have an institution like the Lincoln Memorial Shrine, but that it has endured now 90 years is a testament to the vision that the founders, the Watchorns, had, and the support of this community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Watchorns, Abraham Lincoln, and the Lincoln Memorial Shrine, enduring legacies for all time.
Let us do our best, that when we look in the mirror, we can know what sort of person we see. Keep out in the open field and work for the best that is within you.